Our top story today, Democratic Senator John Kerry making critical remarks at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Among other things, he said the U.S. is, quote, a sort of international pariah. Mike Emanuel is live here in Washington with more on that. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Brian. Yes, Senator John Kerry slamming the Bush administration's foreign policy in Switzerland today. Kerry was asked about whether the U.S. government did not properly engage leaders in Tehran before Iran's 2005 election. Senator Kerry saying the Bush administration has failed to adequately address a number of foreign policy issues, and he argues the U.S. government needs to do a better job of using diplomacy to improve national security. Here's some of Kerry's criticism at the World Economic Forum.
And Americans have an unfortunate habit of seeing the world and other people exclusively through an American lens and judging their aspirations through that lens.
The 2004 Democratic nominee did say the U.S. has to advance its national security interests, but Kerry argues the U.S. needs to do it more thoughtfully and effectively. Then Kerry accused the U.S. of not living up to its own rhetoric and standards.
We have a crisis of confidence in the Middle East, in the world, really. I've never seen our country as isolated, as much of a sort of international pariah for a number of reasons as it is today.
The Massachusetts senator then said the U.S. should be less engaged in this, quote, neocon rhetoric of regime change and more involved in building relationships and living up to America's own values.
When we walk away from global warming, Kyoto, when we are irresponsibly slow in moving towards AIDS in Africa, when we don't advance and live up to our own rhetoric and standards, we send a terrible message of duplicity and hypocrisy, etc.
Kerry says the government needs to use diplomacy to improve national security and do a better job of protecting U.S. interests. And the senator says he's never seen the United States as isolated as it is today.
We should engage. We should have been more supportive in other ways. We should be less engaged in this neocon rhetoric of regime change and more involved in building relationships and living up to our own values so that people make a different judgment about us.
Mike, talk to me about this comment about calling the United States an international pariah. It's not usual to see a U.S. senator on a foreign stage, and a very prominent one at that, making such a comment.
You're absolutely right. It certainly is not common to go overseas and criticize the U.S. Usually they say, you know, it's fine to criticize the U.S. on the shore of the United States, but when you go overseas, you should be loyal to the United States. But apparently this question about whether the U.S. mishandled the situation in Tehran before the 2005 Iranian elections pushed a button with Senator Kerry, and so he decided it was an opportunity for him to express how he feels about U.S. foreign policy at this point.